Hey guys, hey, just before you start watching this podcast, this is my first one. I actually uploaded it yesterday, and I don't know, overnight I was like, surely I can do this better. I'm still yet to find a really good editing program, but I've had another little tweak with it, so just bear with me. If you are finding it a bit boring at the beginning, because I do a little bit of a introduction to myself and I think I blab on a little bit, just scroll forward and have a look at some of my projects. Otherwise, I'll leave you to it. Thanks. Hi there, welcome to my podcast. My name's Carla. This podcast doesn't have a name yet, but I've been wanting to do one for a little while, and today just had the opportunity where there's hardly anyone home. My daughter's outside, but if I hear the front door or the back door open, I will be pausing this like you would not believe, because I haven't told anyone I'm doing this. and I will be getting a hard time. So a bit about me. My name's Carla. I am from Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I live about 10-15 minutes outside of Turanganui-a-Kiwa, also known as Gisborne, also known as the first place to see the sun. I've been living up here for about 25 years. I grew up in a little coastal village about 35 minutes south from here on a peninsula. So moving up here was like moving up to the big city. But anyway, so I'm a bit out of breath. I just feel a bit nervous. But so yeah, I'm living in a place called Patatahi. It's beautiful. We're semi-rural. We're surrounded by farmlands and orchards and things like that, but it doesn't take long to get into town to go to work. I'm a mum of 3 adult children. My oldest has just turned 24. My youngest is actually my stepdaughter from a previous relationship, and she's just turned 21. So we've got 24, 22, 21, and she has twin girls, so I'm a nanny as well. Sorry, I keep looking over at my notes until I get used to this. You're going to have to deal with that. I am a librarian. I have been for, let's see, started working year 2000, so 21 years I've been a librarian. I am qualified. I've worked public, tertiary, and now I'm in a high school. I love it. I love my job. I love the kids. We're currently on school holidays right now, so it's given me a bit of time to have a think about what I'm going to do, try and catch up with bits and pieces around the house and things. Today is a really miserable day outside. We've had some lovely weather. For anyone watching who's in the northern hemisphere, New Zealand, we're in the southern hemisphere, so we are going into spring. We're in spring now, so it should be warming up, but the weather's a bit unsettled at this time of the year. We get some quite heavy rain, and yeah. What else? Right, so this podcast is basically going to be talking about craft. I knit, I sew, and I dabble with embroidery and bits and pieces like that. I also like to garden, but I figured predominantly I wanted to do knitting because it's my new passion. But knitting, I'm not a fast knitter. Other people think I am, but in the knitting world, I'm not a fast knitter. And yeah, I know I've said 1,000 times, but it's going to keep happening until I get used to this. So I'm not a fast knitter. So in order to keep things interesting, I can show you other bits and pieces I'm working on as well, because I think a lot of us who do one craft do other crafts, and we might be interested in, and I quite enjoy it when I watch podcasts and I see you all doing, you know, talking about the books you're reading. Obviously, being a librarian, it's an occupational hazard. I read a lot, and other things that we're doing. So I thought, well, I'm not going to go through a huge amount of what I've sewn because I am a prolific sewer. I've got a bit of a problem with that. I've sewn since I was a kid, and that's always been my main passion. I think mainly because knitting was too slow for me. I liked having an immediate result. I mean, you can just put your foot on the old sewing machine and just go for it. And I've come to knitting more as I've got older, because it's more mindful. Sewing can be slow. I'll talk about that a little bit later, about one of my favourite pattern designers who talks about slow fashion. But yeah, so where was I? So I thought I'll talk about my knitting history and my sewing history, and then I'll go into some, I'll talk a little bit about some of the things I've made recently, and then some of the whips that I have going on. So my sewing history I've already talked about. So I've been sewing since I was a kid. But knitting, I think I learnt to knit as a child. My main knitting hero is my nana. My mum used to knit on and off, but she's a bit like me. She was a bit like me. She used to like sewing better, I think. Mum was the queen of unfinished projects, bless her. But my nana, she's 90, but she can't really see very well anymore, so that's a shame. She was a spinner. She lived out in Mahia. That's the place that we grew up in, while we were there, so we were always at her place, and Nana always had the spinning wheel out, or she was knitting. And yeah, so that kind of thing is not, has always been around me. And on that tone, knitting is spinning is something that I'd like to be doing, learn to do at some stage in the future. Might need to sort my house out though, it's not really big enough. So Nana was a big influence for us. She taught us to knit, me and my sister, and I remember we knitted the wonky scarves, you know, just in the garter stitch. And so I knew how to knit, and I remembered how to knit, and I didn't really do much more with that until I was pregnant with my second child, which is my son. And I would have been, how old was I at the time? I was pregnant with him, I was 22. And I got nesty. Me and my kid's dad, we bought a house together, bought our first home, and I got really nesty. So back then, we're talking 1999. I went to the town library. It was just before I started training and working actually in a library. Borrowed a book on how to knit, went to the Salvation Army store. I bought a pattern book with booty patterns, because my nana had said to me that if you want to test how well you're doing in a project, the good thing to do is booties, and I thought it was a really, really good advice. You knit booties, so sorry, that was my foot on the dressing table, I'm a bit fidgety. If you knit booties, there's a variety of stitches that you're learning, and there's also two. So if you knit both of them and they turn out different sizes or look different, then you know you've done something wrong, and it's a good way of teaching you. So I did that, had the booty patterns. I bought knitting needles from the second-hand shop as well, and then I think I actually went to the yarn shop and bought some proper wool, because I've always been a bit of a yarn snob and I like natural fibres. So yes, that's what I did, and I did that. I knitted my son a little beret. It was beautiful, actually. I actually don't think I didn't, when I look back, I didn't think I did too bad for a beginner knitter. And I remember just freaking out when my nana went to have a look at what I was making, and she said, "You've done a really good job," and I was like, "Thanks." You know, felt really quite good. But I digress. Anyway, so I did that then, and then I, over the years, sort of knitted the odd thing for the kids. But once they got a bit older, and my nana had knitted them lots of jumpers and things, they got to the point that scratchy and stuff like that. So they became quite unknitworthy. So my knitting needles and stuff just basically sat there, and every now and then, maybe once every couple of years, I'd pull them out and I'd knit some booties for someone having a baby or whatever. And then about, I want to say 3 years ago, I had a go at knitting a little bunny rabbit. It was just a free pattern somewhere, and I really enjoyed it. And it was so slow, and it was nice, and I had a new appreciation for the actual craft of the knitting. And I posted it on Facebook, I think, and my friend had said a little while later she'd seen this book, probably when she's also a librarian, she was probably buying, and it's this one here. And I don't know whether this is going to reverse around, but it's Knitted Animal Friends, and it's by Louise Crowther, and I just fell in love. So I ordered it from the book depository, and my first knit was Dorothy the mouse, which is, she's the little mouse. Obviously she's not knitted in the same fabric, and I gifted her to my sister, because my sister I always think of as a little mouse. And then I got on a roll after that. So my nephew is, he would have been about 4 at the time, and living over in Australia. So I thought for him I was going to make Stanley the raccoon. It's just so cute. I do have some photos somewhere, and if I can find them I'll inset them. And then I just knitted Charlotte the Fox for the hell of it, and I decided that I would give Charlotte the Fox to my mum. I mean, the ones that I did were obviously different colourways, but I mean the animals I tried to keep the same. It's quite hard in New Zealand, it's really hard to get the same yarn that's listed in the pattern. But yeah, I learned so many different techniques making these toys. And I gave Charlotte the Fox to my mum, and she just loved her. And then sadly we lost mum last year, and Charlotte went home to live with my sister, so she keeps Dorothy the mouse company on the bed. So the next one I'm making 2, and I'm making 2 Tilly the Hares, but I'm just going to call them bunnies, because my stepdaughter, when she was a little girl, she absolutely loved a bunny toy, and I thought it'd be really nice to knit one each for her girls, and their birthdays are in November. I actually started it last year, but that's when mum was sick, and I don't know, it was hard. So it was a really hard year last year, so I didn't finish it, and I didn't put pressure on myself to finish it, because shit happens basically. So those were the other things. I'll show you what I have made of the bunny shortly. So yes, that was my history. That was some of the things that I've made. Talking about slow fashion, so one of my favourite pattern designers, sorry it's got really bright in here. The sun's just come through the windows, through the clouds. Is Meg from So Liberated. And hold on 1 second. Oh no, has that made that too dark? No, not too bad. Just had to pull that curtain, it was crazy. Meg from So Liberated, and she talks about slow fashion, all sorts of kind of mindful ways of doing things with your sewing, and a lot of her patterns incorporate French seams, flat fell seams, really nice tailoring options that are different from just sew and then overlock. She's really lovely. So I've actually made 3 pairs of these pants. The fabric is a bit hard to see. They've got a really cool side pocket, but this is one that I made when we were in lockdown a few weeks ago. And they are called the Aeronite pants, and this is just made out of a linen cotton blend. It's hard to see, but if you look up So Liberated, the Aeronite pants, that's what these are. So that's one of my makes. That's a sewing make. This is my first knitted garment. I don't know what it's called. I'll have a look later on, and I will go and see if I can find the pattern. It was a free one through Lincraft, and I just downloaded it, and I did this last year. I know I got the wool from Skeinz, which is in Napier, but I can't remember the name of the wool either. Back then I wasn't really thinking about telling people about it. So it's a little cardie. You'll see some pilling. I've just washed it again and blocked it again, and it needs a shave. It pulls like crazy. But it's a little cardie. It's got gold buttons. It's knitted flat and sewn together, and sewing doesn't bother me because I sew anyway. I know a lot of people don't like that. And then it's got this lovely pattern on the back, which I was so proud of. This is my first adult garment. Like, that was a huge mission for me with my patients. I've knitted accessories, I've knitted fingerless mittens and hats and stuff like that for myself, but I've never knitted something for myself. So that was last year. That was, I think I finished that about a month before Mum passed away. And then this year I got started with this one that I'm wearing now. Don't look at my pants down, in my fat house pants. But I don't know if you can see, I probably didn't pick the best wool, but it was mystery wool. It was wool that a friend from work had given to me, and it was on a big cone, and I was like, eh. So I tried it and it worked. And this is the Ilha sweater, so I-L-H-A, by Tete Beche. Tete Beche? I'm not sure, it's foreign, so I'll have to write it down. Like everyone says, I'll just add all the details in the description box if I get around to actually getting the guts to post this on YouTube. And I made this and wore it. I had a goal in mind. In July we were going, so that's our winter. My partner and I go on a trip. I need to slow down, I'm rushing. We go on a trip once a year usually with a group of other friends, a few other couples, and we go to a place called Motu, which is about, I want to say 45 minutes north of here, but inland. And then when you get to Motu, you get on an off-road track and you go right into the hills, into a farm station with native bush all around and forestry and stuff, and it's 4-wheel drive only access. And we stay at a homestead that the people who own it don't live there full time. They actually have a farm in town here or closer to town, and then they just go out every couple of weeks. They've got a deer farm, they feed the deer, and they also have hunting lodges on the same property that people can go pay to go and stay on and go hunting. So we go and stay at this big homestead. It's off the grid, totally off the grid, so you know, hot water heated in the fire and solar power and all the rest of it, and it's freezing up there. So you know, you can have a difference of about 5 to 10 degrees Celsius from the temperature here on the flatlands to up in the hills. And there was a chance that it could have snowed, so I was like, oh, I really want to get this top done. Probably a little bit short for that kind of thing, but I was just so excited, and I got it done. This is knitted top down, which I've never done before, and knitted in the round, and I love it. And all the patterns are cabled. I did make some mistakes, and I realised later, and I had to undo about 3 or 4 rounds, but there's some mistakes I know that other people won't notice, and then there's some that you just can't live with them. It's a bit stink, but anyway, I digress. Probably said that before as well. Then I think this time last year, the Soulcraft Festival was running. So I don't know if you haven't heard of Soulcraft, it's actually running now. I love it. A lady named, is it Felicia Semple? I think it's Felicia. I'm not entirely sure that I've got her surname. Got her surname right, but she runs the craft sessions on, if you look up craft sessions on Instagram, and she coordinates a festival called Soulcraft. And I think prior to last year it was in Australia and people would come and it was a physical thing, and then due to COVID she put it online, and which meant that people like myself, who probably wasn't going to travel to Australia for this wonderful thing, could actually attend it. And she has people from all around the world contributing stories and just all sorts of craft, why we do craft, why it's good for our souls. And anyway, last year I was watching that, and there was a lovely lady on there called Denise Bayron. So I got interested in her. I started following her on Instagram, and I ended up purchasing a couple of her patterns. The first one I made was this, which is not a good example because I don't know what I've done wrong, but it's quite small, but it's a capelet, and you know, normally I should be able to stretch it over my shoulders. Having said that, I do need to re-block it. When I first blocked it, I didn't have proper blocking pins, and I think that would probably work better, but it's supposed to like be tight at the neck, go over your shoulders, and then have a point down the front. So I made that, and I was actually knitting that while I was up at Motu. And then the second one I made of hers is the Waves of Change jumper, pullover, I think they call it. It's really confusing what different countries call jerseys. We just call them a jersey here. And it's really hard to see, but you can see it's got the lines. And this was a bit of a risky knit. I've inherited wool over the years from different people, even though I wasn't knitting a whole lot. And there was 2 large hanks of this, and I figured I think you're supposed to use chunky knit wool, and that wasn't, so I held 2 together, and I was literally playing yarn chicken at the end doing the sleeves. I think I ended up with a little bit like that left over, to the point that I actually put the stitches on one sleeve on hold and then started the second one thinking I'll just knit a bit of this and then a bit of this, because I just kept thinking I might not have enough, I might have to introduce another colour and try and get creative. But I did it, and I don't even know what the wool is. So, and actually the second hank was really disappointing because I did have a moth infestation at one stage. I don't know how. And the first hank was fine, rolled up fine, no breaks. The second one was just break. So I had all these little balls. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So this is really cool. This one is also knitted from the top down. And it's really simple. Doesn't take too long. And I love it. It's so nice and warm. Blocked up beautifully. I'm quite proud of it. And it's thick enough, big enough that I can actually put other layers of clothing underneath it. Sorry, just make sure no one's out there. So that's that one. That's that one. And then two other finished objects that I'll show you. These are just sewing ones. This is the Peplum top from Peppermint Magazine. It's a free pattern. And it's just made in a linen blend from Spotlight. And this is the same linen blend but in a different colour. And this is the ruffle sleeve top, also from Peppermint Magazine. This one needs a wash, that's why it's crinkled up. So I thought I'll just chuck those on there because you know. Now, oh, one more finished object. I made this morning. I didn't make the basket. I have had this basket for about 20 something years. It's just holds stuff up in a cupboard, whatever, and I had to clean up the other day and I took whatever was in it out and I thought, ooh, project basket. And I had this fabric, so I've made a little project basket, and I've just made the bag with the, you know, done all the bits and then just done a separate, so you know it's the same colour on the inside. I'll show you properly. This has got a drawstring top and it's holding a wee project that I'll talk about in a minute. Oops. This, I was quite happy. I was still wearing my dressing gown. It took me until about 10 o'clock this morning to have a shower. So the inside just looks like that. Right, here's my second go. I don't even know if this one's going to work. So I was explaining the basket and my daughter came in and I quickly turned it off. This, like I say, she'd give me a really hard time. And then she had some post arrive and she was making lunch, so I let her do that. She's disappeared off. I can't guarantee that I won't be jumping back out of here and pausing again. But I did take the opportunity to go through what I'd recorded, have a little look and tweak things. I'm not going to reshoot because there was a lot of info in there and I really just can't be bothered. I'm the economizer, you know, not lazy, I just like to make a, you know, I'm waffling. So I changed my camera, so I noticed, and I had a feeling that it would happen, but then I was worried I wouldn't be able to see what I was doing. I'm using my phone because my proper camera, I'm charging the battery right now. If I don't use it for a while, the battery goes dead. So I'm using my phone and I had it on selfie mode, mainly because I want to be able to see what I was holding up, but as I think we all know, when you can see your face, you keep looking at it or you keep looking at what you're holding up, and then when you play it back, it looks like you're looking to the side and not at the person who you're supposed to be talking to. So I've got a very convoluted setup of jewellery boxes and things holding my cell phone up, and then I changed the chair that I'm sitting in because the other one was just a kitchen chair and I find them quite uncomfortable and I find myself hunching, and then I was fidgeting and I was putting my legs on the dressing table and it was a no-go. So I was talking about this basket. So I made up a bag and then an outside casing which stops about here, and I've just used a hot glue to secure that into there, put a little casing here, and then it just draw strings up, and then you can carry it around. And I thought that was perfect size for a little one that I'm working. On at the moment. Well, no, not at the moment. I started it earlier this year, and it must have, I don't know, I think it was before May. My sister's birthday's in May, and I was still going through a lot of stuff after Mum passed away, and I just struggled with concentration. So I fell in love with this pattern ages ago. I think I saw it on my Pinterest. Sorry, that's going to be crinkly. And I just thought, that's my sister. She had the Frog and Toad books, and I thought, what a lovely little present for her for her birthday. And then I didn't get it done. So I'd started, you know, it's hard. I still couldn't get the right wool. But I thought I'd get the close enough to it. So I've started, I had actually cast on the little frog, and then and I bought some wool for the toad and their clothes. So I thought I might start doing that again, and that can be a Christmas present for Teresa. While I was on my little break, while my daughter was in here doing cooking, I forgot about the thing that really got me enthused. So, talking about knitting podcasts, another bit about myself. I have been recently diagnosed with fibromyalgia. It's not a new thing, it's just a new diagnosis, but it's something I've been going through, trying to cope with for years and years and years, and I guess it's one of those conditions that some people believe in and some people don't. And I finally got to see a young doctor, and she just straight away just said, we're going to do all these tests to eliminate anything else, but I'm pretty sure this is what you have. And so I don't even know where I was going with that. So that's right, so I was sick. So we had, New Zealand went into lockdown, I think Auckland's in like week 7 now, or 8. But the rest of the country, we were in level 4 for a couple of weeks, and then we went to level 3 and level 2. And so while we were off work, I started watching. I follow this lady called Katie, and I follow her on Instagram as Lavender and Leeks because I like watching people in England with their allotment gardens. I think they're really cute. And then I thought, because I hadn't seen much from her on Instagram, I thought, I think she's got a YouTube channel. So I went on, and then I found that she did videos, and they were called Lavender and Loops, and they're the most delightful little podcasts about, a bit like what I'm going to do. She was starting off doing a knitting podcast, but realised that she may not have much to talk about over periods of time because life gets in the way, doesn't it? So she, has incorporated other things into her podcast as well. And I think she started the knitting one because she was talking about knitting in her gardening vlogs, and she thought that people that were doing the gardening, following her, the gardening vlog, might not be interested in her knitting, which I can totally understand. But I was always interested in that. So she had knitted a shawl, and I thought, wow, I haven't really ever thought about knitting a shawl before. That would be cool. So I went on Ravelry, and I don't know, I found this free pattern by Jorge Locatelli, and I was just in love with the way it looks. It's gone a bit scrunched now. When it was first blocked, it stretched out quite a lot. And this is knitted in a 4-ply merino the colorways, the wool, the yarn is called Pulse, and they, you know, the colors change as they go through, and I've got 3 different colorways. So I've got this for each section divided by lace is a new one, and I wasn't sure whether I'd like it that much, but it actually looks quite beautiful on. And the lace, I mean the holes in the lace is just gorgeous, and the picot edge, I was so proud of this. And I take my knitting to work, and I knit in my breaks, and everyone laughs at me, but I don't really care. So I forgot to talk about that. So that is, and it's called the Odyssey shawl, and it's just beautiful. And so I've been following, I mean, since following Lavender and Loops, I guess YouTube gives you suggested videos, and now I'm following so many different podcasters. I watch Jorge's journal. I love Andrea Renee Knits, and that kind of led me onto her by seeing some of her patterns. I think Katie was knitting a jumper called the Wool and Honey, I think it's what it's called, and I was so fascinated by the technique on that. I looked up Andrea Mowry's stuff on Ravelry and found a whole lot of other patterns that I liked even more than that one, which will lead into a couple of the works in progress that I have now. And so then I've been watching Andrea Mowry, and then I started watching a lovely yarn. She's a really neat lady over in Pennsylvania. I think her name's Amber. My memory's not that great. And then she mentioned, now this gets a bit convoluted, but I think she mentioned the Knitting Pickle podcast with Laura, and then Laura might have mentioned somebody else, and then somebody else. So I watch Woolly Witchcraft, Knitting Tradition. I'm watching a whole lot now. I love them. Laura's probably one of my favourite. Her and Brogan from Woolly Witchcraft, they're probably one of my favourite ones because they're so funny. Brogan's just really cute. She's so sweet, and Laura is just hilarious. Like, I've literally laughed right out loud during one of her podcasts, especially when she pulled out, I can't even remember the name of the sweater. Everyone seems to be making them at the moment, but she'd washed it and dried it in the dryer accidentally, and it was shrunk to about that big, and I know she was gutted, but I literally roared with laughter. That's my sense of humour. I just thought it was so funny. So anyway, that's that. Now I can't see what I look like. This is going to be a bit of a mystery. So there was that. Okay, so Drea Renee knits, Drea Renee knits. I am making, now just give me a second to find, is that up there? No, hang on. I'll pull that down as well. Totally not as organised as I thought I'd try to be. I am making a sheltered, and it's a poncho. Hopefully you can see this because I can't see what it looks like to you. And I'm knitting it with a wool. I think it's called Black Hills. It's a New Zealand yarn. The same friend that gave me the wool for this gave me a cone. This is the cone here. And this actually had the label on it. So this probably came from Black Hills too, to be honest. It's huge. I've got so much yarn, and that's what I'm up to now. So that's the lower back, and I'm just starting the you do a slip stitch line that looks like a false seam. So that's been just my mundane knit. You know, it's going to be a beautiful product, but it's I can't even think of my words now. It is mainly stockinette, so it's just easy. I can do it when I'm watching TV, and I need that break because the one I started before this, which is my first attempt at brioche stitch, and it's also Andrea Mowry, and it's called Briochealicious, and that is what it looks like there. Hopefully you can see that, but I've gone a different colorway because I'm not really a white person. I am a white person, but not a white person. This is Cove. It's called Cove. I purchased it from Skeinz in Napier online, and I've gone with, I don't even have the other yarn in here, but I've got, that's like a deep green, like it's pine, I think it's called. That one is called Smuggler's Den. It's essentially, it's purple, and then the other colour will be a sea greeny blue in the brioche. So that's as far as, oops, oh, I haven't, normally I don't put it down sort of partially through it. So that's what I'm doing there, and I have to concentrate because I did think I could do a bit of watching TV and reading subtitles and stuff, and I made a few mistakes, and I hate having to undo it. So that's just when I want to just sit down and listen to a podcast or something. So I've got that. I've shown you our frog and toad. Oh, I was going to show you what I've got. So far what I've got up to with the rabbits, or Tilly the hare. I've done the two little bodies, and when I looked in my basket I realised I'd only knitted 3 arms, and I knew I hadn't done any legs yet. So I'm just knitting the 4th arm, then I'll do the 4 legs, and then I'll construct it, and then I've got to go mad trying to knit little outfits for them. Obviously put the eyes on and the nose and mouth and stuff. So that's them. And the body, I've made this body, is actually made from Merino Soft Baby 4-ply. Oh, it is Merino. For some reason I had a memory, and it's made for Skeinz again. I like Skeinz. They are good. And that's another wool there. So that's that sorted. And what I'm going to start today, if I can finish doing this film, is this is my next sewing make, and it's the Hinterland dress by Sew Liberated, and I've had this pattern purchased for months and months and months, and I just forgot that I had it there, and then I finally decided that I was going to do something with it. I'm going to make the capped sleeve version. I've put on a ton of weight in the last few years, and I've just decided that I'm going to stop worrying about how I look. I'm going to stop worrying about, I almost didn't do this because when I replayed the first bit I was like, oh, this is so, you look, you know, but no, let it go. So my arms, I've always had a thing about my arms, even when my arms actually weren't that bad, I had a thing about my arms. But anyway, I'm going to do a cap sleeve, and I'm unsure. That's my daughter. I don't want to pause it. I'm unsure whether I will do the button placard all the way down the front, or whether I will just do the top section, but we'll see. And I have got this linen, 100% linen, and it's a pinstripe linen, and I purchased that from Backstreet Bargains. So we'll see. I'm not really much of a pink person, but pink actually doesn't look too bad on me. And that is pretty much about it. I don't think there's anything else I was going to show you. Thank you if you've stuck around to watch the whole video. Thanks. I know it's a bit of a mishmash. I'll see what I can do when it comes to editing. But yeah, I've wanted to do this for a long time, so I thought I'll just throw everything at YouTube, and if anyone wants to watch, they can watch. If they don't, well then it will just be for me. But at least I have given it a go. I don't think there was anything else on here. Nah, I don't think there is. I think we'll leave it at that. And depending on how this goes and whether I post it, we'll see what happens. I hope you can hear me. I'm just trying to be a bit quiet. But thank you for watching. If you do and did enjoy this and you want to watch me again, I might have something a bit more interesting next time. Just hit the subscribe button. And if you like it, hit like. Please don't hit dislike on my first one because I'll feel really sad. But if you do, you do. And thanks for watching.